welcome to The Next Fight. I'm Don West, National Trial Counsel for CCW Safe. Today we're going to talk about being formally charged and the pretrial phase of the case. Unless you happen to be lucky enough that the prosecutor decides not to prosecute you, the next step in the process will be the filing of formal charges. This could take a few weeks or even a few months following the arrest, depending on where you live. By formal charges, I mean that you will be indicted by a grand jury, or, if the rules permit, the prosecutor will file an information. In some places, all felony charges have to be brought by an indictment returned by a grand jury. In those jurisdictions, a number of citizens sitting as the grand jury hears evidence presented by the prosecutor. Sometimes the prosecutor is known as a district attorney. In other places, maybe the state attorney. It really doesn't matter what they're called. Their job is the same. It's to represent the people of that state by prosecuting those they believe have committed a crime. The prosecutor's client is the people of their jurisdiction, not the alleged victim of the crime or that person's family. The prosecutor has the obligation to seek justice and is expected to act independently of political influence. Yeah, good luck with that. The top prosecutor in a jurisdiction is usually an elected position. The victim or victim's representative will have some influence on how the case is prosecuted, and most states have victim rights laws that guarantee their participation in the process. But the prosecutor is in charge, that's the bottom line. The prosecutor can bring the charge or drop the charge irrespective of the wishes of the victim. In jurisdictions where felony charges are brought by indictment, the prosecutor presents evidence to the grand jury, and the grand jury considers the evidence and decides what, if any, charges to return. In most cases, the grand jury brings the charges that the prosecutor asks for, but that's not required, and on some occasions, the grand jury will refuse to indict. In those instances, the grand jury returns a no true bill, meaning they didn't find sufficient evidence to charge the defendant with a criminal offense. If the grand jury does bring charges, the accused will be brought to answer to the charges, and the formal prosecution will begin. You will enter a not guilty plea by appearing in court or through your lawyer, and a trial date will be set. In other jurisdictions, the prosecutor has the authority to file charges, at least for most offenses, without bringing them before a grand jury. In Florida, for example, a prosecutor can file any charge on his own up to a capital offense. Capital offenses have to be brought by a grand jury, but everything else, including second-degree murder, for which someone can be sentenced to life in prison, can be brought by the prosecutor by filing what's known as an information. An information has the same legal effect as an indictment, but it doesn't require a grand jury's decision. As you can see, the prosecutor has incredible power and discretion in bringing charges. Sometimes in sensitive cases or high-profile cases, the prosecutor will use the grand jury to investigate public corruption or review highly controversial cases rather than filing charges or even declining to file charges on his own. The prosecutor can defer to the decision of the grand jury, even if that decision is not to return any charges, so then the prosecutor's off the hook on making that decision. Don't forget, most prosecutors are elected, and all of them want to keep their jobs. Like an indictment, an information is a formal charge and must inform you of what you're accused of doing. It will reference the specific statute you are accused of violating, and will be a basic summary of the essential facts giving rise to the charge. Following the filing of formal charges, whether by indictment or information, a plea of not guilty will be entered, and the case will move into the discovery phase. In a formal prosecution, the prosecution is usually listed in the indictment as the people or the state, and the accused is the defendant. Thanks for watching. I'm Don West for The Next Fight.